Hi. Oh my goodness. Hi, this is Tyler, the Hollywood attorney. I'm so glad to have you guys here with me. I wanted to have more connections with you guys and do a live stream, even though I will say this is slightly uncomfortable for me because I am very much an introvert. And so I'm actually kind of shy, if you can believe it or not. A little introduction of myself. I am a practicing attorney in California. I have been licensed for 17 years, the last 15 of it in Hollywood. I started my channel about 5 months ago, and I kind of was in my head a little too much. And then I went to Vid Summit and I met Sarah and Emily, the Keto twins, who are here now. And I'm so excited. Thanks for joining. Emily is here. Hi, Emily. So they gave me an idea. They said, since you used to work at BuzzFeed and this Try Guys drama is happening right now, why don't you do a video on it? So I did a quick video on it, a 3-minute video, and I had 280 subscribers at that point. And hi Sarah. Hi Sarah. And I had 280 subscribers, and on October 4th, I released a 3-minute video on the Try Guys, just kind of breaking down what I was thinking and what was probably happening behind the scenes, because I've worked at these companies. I've helped executives join companies and exit companies. And that video went completely viral. And then I did 2 other videos on the Try Guys, and I hit like 10,000 subscribers. So thank you to Sarah and Emily for that video idea. I did want to use today, thank you so much for coming back. I was supposed to have this live earlier today, and I was having all these technical difficulties. Hopefully, going forward, I'll have my live streams on Sundays, midday, so more of you can catch it. I can't do it during the week, but weekends are the best for me. And hopefully you guys can join. So today I wanted to really do a deeper dive on the Alec Baldwin case and kind of talk about what his defenses might be. And let's be clear, the DA's office, the DA of Santa Fe, still has not charged him yet. I mean, she stated that she was going to charge him before the end of the month. We only have a few days left now, so we'll see what happens. I mean, it's still interesting that they haven't yet charged him. I'm so glad you guys found me through the Try Guys. Hi, Darlena. Thank you so much, Michelle and Aaron. And so let's talk about Alec Baldwin a little bit. And for those of you who haven't maybe been following, I wanted to give a little bit of background on kind of the timeline of what has happened. And I don't know, Darlene, you're asking a good question. Like, why are they waiting to charge Alec Baldwin? I don't know. I believe the charges have already been drafted. It looks like some of the news outlets have already been given a copy and have read it. So I do think it's coming. Hello, Vicchar. It's nice to see all of you. I mean, I read all of your comments and I recognize some of your names. So thank you so much for coming. You're not late because I had to restart. So we're here now. So Alec Baldwin's case, it's so tragic. Basically on October 21st, 2021, which I believe was the 12th day of shooting on the film Rust, right? It was shooting in New Mexico. It was a low budget film. I think it was around $7 million. Captain Obvious, I am in LA, so Pacific Standard Time. So it's 9 o'clock now. This is helpful for me because my kids are usually asleep by now, or at least one of them are. So on the 12th day of shooting actually started late because several crew members walked off, and I believe most of the camera crew walked off. There's this very sweet and sad story about Helena like hugging her camera crews before they left. And basically, I believe what happened was she was like left on her own, right? She only had one camera. She was doing all the shooting on her own. I do wonder. Thank you so much, Sarah and Emily, for your support. You guys are the whole reason why I'm here, and I've had my success. So thank you so much. So I believe most of the camera crew had walked off in protest, right? Because of the fact that they weren't getting paid, the fact that they had to drive over an hour to get to the set every day, which is really hard. You know, when we work on a production, we always make sure that the crew is, you know, within 15 minutes of where they're shooting, because if they're having to drive over 2 hours a day after working 16 to 18-hour days, I mean, that's just, it's incredibly hard, and I can understand why the IATSE crew walked off. So that day on October 21st, Helena was left on her own. Now, I believe this film had a budget of $7 million, which is very, very low in Hollywood. I mean, I recently worked on a film that had a $10 million budget, and it was very tight. It filmed in New York, and it was very, very challenging because New York is very buttoned up. It's very expensive. Everybody has to be unionized. You know, all the crews. Like, we couldn't bring in this very famous driver because he wasn't part of the union. So anyway, Helena was left on her own, and as we know, right, the facts are David Halls, who is the first assistant director, handed Alec Baldwin the gun and stated that it was cold, right? Now, there are questions as to why Gutierrez Reed, who is the armor, you know, although a little inexperienced, she was the armor that was hired for the production. And she, for some reason, was held outside the church. I don't know if it was, there weren't enough people there. And so maybe they didn't want that many people there. I mean, I think there's a chain of custody issue here because she wasn't the one that handed the gun to Alec Baldwin. So I believe David Halls handed the gun to Alec Baldwin and said it was cold. And in doing my research, right, I did look into the SAG safety bulletin, right? Because as you guys know, SAG came out and defended Alec Baldwin and said that it's not an actor's responsibility to check the guns. However, there is a safety bulletin that I found. I'm going to try to see if I can share my screen. This will be new for me to try. Oh, here it is. Here, let me see if I can try to share this. I promise I'm going to get smoother as time goes on. Let me see here. Safety bulletin. Okay. All right. Can you guys see that? Okay. So basically it states, right? Can you guys see the share screen? Can you guys let me know? Because I just want to make sure I'm doing it correctly. Okay, great. Okay, so it states, right? These are the general safe use and handling of firearms when you are on set, right? Refrain from pointing a firearm at anyone, including yourself. If it's absolutely necessary to do so, on camera, consult the property master, right? Or other safety representatives, such as the first AD or stage manager. Never place your gun on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Know where and what your intended target is. Do not engage in horseplay, never discharge, you know, so on and so forth, right? And then actually, if you guys here, right, it states, as an actor, you are ultimately responsible for your own safety and the safety of your fellow cast members. You have the absolute right to say no to any stunts or scenes that you think that might be dangerous. In my research, I am hearing that Gutierrez Reed offered, oh, shoot, am I frozen again? Go back. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're back. Okay, sorry. So she stated in an interview that she had offered Alec Baldwin the chance to kind of guide him through his cross draw, right? I think some of you have seen that photo, right? It's the one where he shows himself as pulling out the gun, and his hand is on the trigger. I mean, he states that, his hand was never on the trigger. He states in his interview with ABC that he should have probably never done, right? That his hand was, he was cocking the hammer back. But there have been a lot of gun experts that have come out. I think the FBI Quantico Labs have also confirmed that there's no way that gun could have gone off unless the hand was on the trigger. Now, I think what's very interesting, and in his defense, what is people don't realize is that specific gun, I think it's a 45 Colt, is very, very I think they call it like a light touch. Basically, you don't have to even touch it that hard. Like, your hand could be on the trigger and it's just like the slightest movement would make the trigger go off. Shannon, you asked, how did live ammunition get on the set in the first place? I don't know, right? There definitely was live ammunition. There definitely was evidence of that. I mean, I think Gutierrez Reed has sued the ammunition's vendor, basically, that supplied the bullets, right? And stated that it's their fault that the live ammunition got there in the first place. Now, I don't know if you guys watched that interview from the Santa Fe DA on the 19th, where she was giving an interview with CNN stating that they were going to charge Alec Baldwin and Gutierrez Reed. And she said that basically the fact that there were live bullets or not is a red herring. I mean, that's the position they are taking, right? I think what she is saying is it doesn't really matter, right, that there was live ammunition or not. The fact is, 3 different people, right, Gutierrez Reed, David Hall, and Alec Baldwin, had any one of them checked the gun, right, just opened it up and checked it, they would have seen, right, that these were real bullets. Now, I think on blanks, right, I was listening to a George Clooney interview, and we'll get to that in a minute when we start talking about his defense, right? Right, they could come to a plea bargain. It's very possible that I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think Alec Baldwin wants to go to trial, or do you think they'll take a plea? Because I think it's very possible that they might take, I don't know. I mean, having heard Alec Baldwin's interviews, I think he's going to want to prove his innocence, right? Because when you take a plea, you have to admit that you were guilty. And in his interview with ABC, he said he felt no guilt. And I think, I don't know, like, for optics, I think that was a horrible thing to say. Like, how could you not feel guilt? Like, I think any person would feel guilty, right? Oh, you make a good point. Could they be trying to negotiate to stop her from pressing charges? Yeah, it's very possible, right? I mean, David Halls was not charged, but he took a plea bargain, and so I think it's very possible they could be doing that right now. Yes, so let's talk about this a little bit, right? I just want to give some context as to why it was a horrible idea for Alec Baldwin to talk to the press after the shooting. So having represented very high level actors in my time working in Hollywood, realized that actors like Alec Baldwin have a huge team of people, right? He probably has his talent lawyer that negotiates his talent deals, and then he has litigators, probably. He has agents and managers, and probably a PR team that they go to. They probably went to a crisis management, PR firm. But here's the thing about actors and talent, right? We as their attorneys can give them the advice that we think they should follow. But at the end of the day, they decide what they want to do, even against our best intentions and our best advice, right? They will still go and do whatever they kind of want to do. And Michael, you asked if I represented him, what would I have told him to do? Don't talk to the press. Don't talk to the police without your attorney present. I mean, when I listen to those police interviews, I mean, even any normal person would have had their attorney present. I don't know how it is that maybe he just truly believed, like, I did nothing wrong, right? Like, I did nothing wrong. I'm just going to talk to the police. But I think in one of those interviews, he talked about how he was an expert in guns, right? I don't know if you guys know this, but his dad was a rifle teacher, like in high school, I think. And he stated that he grew up around guns, right? And so that will all be used against him in trial, right? Like they always say you have a right to silence, you have a right to, an attorney. Everything you say will be used against you in a court of law. I mean, the fact that he talked to the police without his attorney present was just shocking. And I think it will come back to haunt him. I really think that was a bad idea. I think him giving all of those interviews, like every word that he said, will come back to haunt him. Aaron, you say he may believe he didn't pull the trigger, but I think it's a question if he actually did. It's an interesting idea, right? I think a couple of things could have happened. Maybe he's not lying. It's very possible that he doesn't remember. Humans, our brains do interesting things where we protect ourselves, right? When there's a moment of huge trauma, you forget what happened and your brain kind of just blocks it out. So it's very possible, right, that he didn't remember that he actually pulled the trigger. And like I said, this Colt 45, apparently the trigger is very light. So you could, he like, it's not like, I think like modern guns. And again, I'm not a gun expert. I think I've let's see what Melanie's saying. Even if you've done nothing wrong, yes, totally. You need to have need to have your attorney present. I mean, I forgot to say this, right? But my videos and my lives, I'm never giving legal advice. I'm not giving legal opinions. However, these are just my own opinions, right? But I will tell you this is advice you guys should all take to heart. Never talk to anybody, especially the police, without your attorney present, because you do have your Fifth Amendment right to not incriminate yourself. So you can always say, I do not have to talk to you, which is totally true. And he didn't do that. And I think that will come back and hurt him. Yeah, I think that will be one of his defenses, right? I shot because she told me to. So I don't know. I mean, in my research, I have found that usually there is equipment, right, that has to be in place when you are ever shooting at the DP, the cinematographer, which Helena was here, right? You're supposed to have safety goggles on. You're supposed to have a safety vest on. You're supposed to have this, it's called, oh shoot, I looked at this. It's like a plexiglass, material that you have in banks, right, that protect the bank tellers. And it won't actually, it's not bulletproof, right? Like it wouldn't probably protect you against a real bullets, but it is supposed to protect you against blanks, right? And it probably would have stopped. I mean, if Helena had one of these in front of her, it probably, would have stopped the bullet at some point and not killed her the way it did. This is just a guess, but there are safety precautions that you're supposed to take when you're supposed to be kind of pointing towards a DP, which does happen, right? I mean, sometimes they want the gun pointed towards them. Let me see. What did you say, Michelle? I think it would be interesting to see this affects whether or not movies decide to shoot there in the future. Well, here's the thing too, right? That a lot of people don't realize. I have had a lot of productions in New Mexico because New Mexico has amazing tax incentives. It's very cheap to shoot there. I think the fact that there are so many productions there probably really factored into the DA wanting to file this. She wanted to send a strong message that you cannot come to New Mexico and put our residents, our citizens of New Mexico at harm's way, right? Because usually when you go there, then you can be protected, right? I think she's trying to send a message to productions: do not come to New Mexico if you're going to have a fast, she used the term fast and loose production where you don't have the proper safety protocols in place or the proper safety equipment, right? I think if Helena had some protections, then she wouldn't have died that day. Thank you. I know this is, I do appreciate all of your patience with me. Michael, you're asking, is he the only one being charged? He can't, can he? I haven't heard about what's happening with the crew involved. So Alec Baldwin has been, will be charged. Gutierrez Reed will also be charged. Now, let's talk about David Halls really quickly, right? Because a lot of people believe that he is the one who's really maybe most at fault or responsible because he was the one that handed Alec Baldwin the gun and said that it was a cold gun. Now, clearly, right, he didn't check the gun and he shouldn't have said that because Alec Baldwin will claim reliance, right, that he relied on David Halls to do his job and to check the gun, which he didn't do, right? And the fact that he was able to get 6-month probation was very surprising to me. I personally thought it should have been more, but that's not for me to say. That's the DA's job. So I wanted to talk very quickly about what I think Alec Baldwin's defense will be, right? I think he will say, this is not my job. As an actor, I am not supposed to check the guns, right? Now, George Clooney, right after the shooting, came out and was very harsh against Alec Baldwin. Not directly, because he's, I think, always a gentleman and very professional. But he stated, right, that after Brandon Lee's fatal shooting and tragic accidental shooting on The Crow, and he was actually very close friends with Brandon Lee. I mean, he stated that they played ball, I think, at the Y like 3 times a week or something. I mean, it's just very sad. And he stated that after Brandon Lee's death, every actor, himself included, will always either check the gun themselves, which he states that he does, or he will have the armor or the prop master open up the gun in front of him. And it's done between every time, right? Like every shot. So if they do a shot and he'll hand the gun back to the prop master will check it and they'll look at it again. He says he'll actually show it to the person, right, that is who is basically going to be, in the line of fire. They'll show that person what's in the gun. I mean, the fact that they didn't do it. I mean, George Clooney was very, very hard and harsh on Alec Baldwin's actions in the shooting of Helena. I think the DA, what did Melanie, the DA wanted Alec Baldwin. She wanted to send a message. I think that's probably true. You know, I think she probably wanted inside information, right? That she wouldn't have gotten, right? Otherwise, she wanted to know exactly what happened. And maybe, you know, Halls gave her information about what was happening. So Alec Baldwin will say, as a defense, it's not my job as an actor. Now, SAG did come out last week and defend him and say that that's true. Now, Michael Shannon came out a few days ago stating that in his years of being an actor, it is your job as the actor, if you're going to be pointing the gun at somebody, right, to check the gun. I mean, he was also very harsh on him. I mean, he stated, right, that if Alec Baldwin had just checked the gun, then Helena would be alive today, right? But I think what's happening here is the fact that Alec Baldwin is a producer on the film. And I wanted to talk very quickly about the different types of producers that are in movies in Hollywood, right? And we can go, like, let's talk about the company side, right? So when I used to work at Disney, I worked under Sean Bailey, right, who's the president of Walt Disney Studios, and he would have a team of executives under him, right? So when I worked on, let's say, Cinderella, the executive at the time was Tendo, and Tendo was actually head of Netflix for the last 4 years. And basically, they would be in-house, right? They're the producer, the capital P producer, and then you would have different producers that would come in. I mean, I think on Cinderella it was Simon Kinberg and Allison Shermer, and they're very, very, you know, big time producers who are there on set day to day. They're like the day to day. I don't think Simon was, but I think Allison was. They're the day to day producers, right? The Disney producers wouldn't necessarily be there every day, but that's on the company side, like big studio side. So let's talk about independent films, right? Independent films like Rust would be you have you ever watched a movie and you just see like 15 producer credits? Usually there are less producer credits, there are a lot of EP credits, right? And Melanie, you're saying, yeah, he's not an 18-year-old kid, right? I mean, he has stated, right, that he has worked in Hollywood for over 40 years, right? He's made a lot of movies, right? He's not necessarily an action movie star, but he has done a lot of movies. So I'm not sure if he put up money, but here is his connection with the Rust production, right? He's not like a vanity producer, right? A lot of times actors will get a producing credit simply because maybe they attached the director, maybe they attached another, you know, actor. So they did something a little more than just act in the movie. But Alec Baldwin actually worked on the story of Rust with the director. And I think, you know, in my mind, he would be a capital P producer. So you would have a capital P producer, right? Who's the actual producer. Now, then you have, you could have financiers who come in and they could also be producers. I believe the company that came in and did the day-to-day production is this company called, right, I printed this out beforehand, called Alan Chaney. He owns a production company, and what is it called? Thomasville Pictures, right? He owns it with Ryan Smith. Now, what's interesting is that they did another film where David Halls was also the assistant director, and he was, I believe, fired from that film because of another gun incident. Oh, okay, here it is. So in their last film that Thomasville Pictures made was called One Way, which started Machine Gun Kelly. And on that film, there was also complaints of David Hall's disregard for safety protocols, and reported that his behavior to the two producers and so the first camera assistant, Lisa Long, raised safety concerns on that production, One Way, and stated that she was bothered by what she saw as first assistant director David Hall's disregard for safety protocols, and reported his behavior to two producers and IATSE Local 600. So David Halls, seems to have a history of disregarding safety protocols. I mean, if I was representing Alec Baldwin, I mean, I'm not a litigator, right? But I think, Reed and Alec Baldwin's attorneys could definitely use that as the defense, right? That it was really Hall's, and he is the one that's responsible. I think Reed's defense will be that the ammunitions company provided the live ammo and they shouldn't have done that. Neglecting, let's see, safety complaints. So yes, so I was just talking about, the different level of producers, right? Rainey, basically, I think the reason why the DA has charged Alec Baldwin, where typically, an actor wouldn't get charged. I think he's getting charged because he was a producer, not just a vanity producer, right? He is a producer that worked on the story and the screenplay, I believe, with the director. He kind of helped set this up. Now, he might not have been in charge of the day-to-day production, right? The hiring of the personnel, the payroll and different things. Is it possible that he didn't hear about the safety complaints and violations? I think it's very possible. I mean, what you guys have to realize is when I work on productions with very high-level actors, sometimes you have to go through like 3 assistants to say anything to them. Like, you don't get direct access to them. It's possible Alec Baldwin did not know about the safety complaints. It's possible that the physical production company, the producers, didn't want him to know what was happening. But I think the question is, you can say, I didn't know, but the argument would be, well, you should know, right? You're the producer of this picture. You're one of the, original producers who put this project together. You should have known that there were several safety complaints, right? I believe there were complaints and reports of, I don't know if it was the crew or somebody taking guns out during breaks or lunch breaks and shooting, like soda cans or whatever with these guns, right? So people knew that there are real guns and real bullets on set. So the fact that this accident happened is not surprising, I think, to a lot of the crew. So I think the fact that he is a producer really factors into him being charged. I think that him saying that I'm an actor is going to fall flat, only because he has stated, right, that he knows the difference between a blank and wadding and real bullets. The fact that his father was a rifle teacher and he grew up, around guns and bullets, as he has stated. So do you guys, do you have any other questions? Let me see. Why would a producer who fired Halls before would be okay with him being hired on another project that they're involved in? I don't know. Here's the thing. In my research, I heard that David Halls was really good at keeping everybody kind of going. He was always like rushing people along. So one of the things that keeps a production on budget is how many days you shoot, right? The more days you shoot, the more expensive the project is, and you might potentially go over budget. When you have a good line producer, right, or an assistant director, their job is to get everybody to stay on schedule and to rush people along. So it's very possible that David Halls might have a reputation of keeping everybody kind of on track. And everybody said this about him, right? That he was always rushing people along. He was always saying, go, go, go. You guys have to go faster. And ultimately, I think that's what caused this accident, is because he was trying to he was just basically trying to save them money, right? Because like I said, $7 million to make a movie is like nothing. It's so little money. I have to imagine, that Alec Baldwin would have taken a big chunk of that, with his precedent, with his fee. He probably ended up taking less money, because a lot of actors work on these passion projects where they will end up taking 1/10 of what their quote is. Right. So light sound, you're saying, I don't know what I read about, and told Hannah to spend less time on firearms. You're right. So she was given other duties, right? She was not only the armorer, I believe she was also doing other prop work or other assistant work. I mean, what people have to realize is this was Reed's second film. And there are, I believe, either interviews that she gave or things that she said to friends or family, that she didn't feel comfortable taking on this big role, or this, being the primary armor on this film. Now, her dad is a very respected and has worked in Hollywood. I think he's one of the most respected armorers in Hollywood. It probably helped her to get this job. But you can't say, I mean, her defense will be, I try to do my job, right? I offered Alec Baldwin training, right? I offered to walk him through kind of the cross draw, and he refused. We have to, finish in, I think they said the 12th day of shooting when the accident happened was halfway through the production. So I think there were 24 days of shooting, which is a very, very fast production. Most productions are, at least 3 months, if not longer. Yes, at the end of the day, it was his finger and hand, right, on the gun. So I'm interested, to see what will happen. Again, they have not yet been charged. It's very possible. I mean, one of you brought it up a good point, that it could be that they're working with the DA on a plea bargain. I don't know. Maybe Alec Baldwin will take a plea bargain, so that he doesn't have to go to prison. I think it'll be a very hard pill for him to swallow, right? Because in order to take a plea bargain, you have to admit that you're guilty, right? And he stated that he did not feel like he was guilty. So, very quickly, before I forget, I was going to say this at the very beginning. I did turn on my memberships. Thank you to those of you who joined. And I also turn on my Patreon. I mean, this is a way for me to sort of keep the sponsors away. I did also, if you guys look in my community tab, start a newsletter. So feel free to sign up for the newsletter. But before you guys jump off, I do want to say in the newsletter, if you sign up for the newsletter, I will be doing a giveaway, and I will actually be giving a giveaway of, this is my Stanley quencher that's like super trendy right now. I was not able to buy one. I finally bought two, one for me and one for one of you guys, for a giveaway. So please sign up for my newsletter. That's completely free. So I wanted to turn to Kohberger really quickly in the time that we have left and talk a little bit about the drama that is surrounding his lawyers, right? I think all of us have been super, upset, right, at the fact that we have to wait until June for the trial to start. I mean, some of you have asked why so long, right? It takes a long time to prepare for trial. I mean, just um, getting discovery, right? I think the defense just received some documents from the prosecution, and apparently there are just thousands of pages, right? Thousands of pages of photos and reports. And so they have to go through all of that, right? And then they have to hire experts and they have to, it just takes a long time. Actually, 6 months is really fast. If you were in LA, I think it takes like 18 months to get in front of a judge right now. So the fact that it's going to happen in 6 months is very fast. Yeah, so if you could please hit the like button, please subscribe if you haven't. It really does help my new channel. Like I said, I really started my channel about 3 months ago and I love this so much. So thank you so much for all of you who have subscribed. Um, so let's talk about the two attorneys that Kohberger has had and currently has, right? So he has this guy named Labar, who was his attorney in Pennsylvania, who simply just helped him very quickly with his extradition, right, to Idaho. And he has come out and given all these interviews to all these news outlets. And as an attorney, I'm just so pissed off. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, do not, we tell our clients to not talk to the press or, law enforcement. Why are you talking to everybody? And here's the problem, right? When you talk to anybody, right, is you start giving out information that could potentially hurt your client or your former client, right? He stated that when he first met with Kohberger, that Kohberger was really calm. And he stated that he understood what was going on. Well, if Kohberger wants to have an insanity plea, which I know in Idaho, they don't exactly allow you to have an insanity plea. I mean, there's like a version of it, but you can't just come out and say that you're insane. Although I think anybody who did the heinous murders is probably, mentally ill. So yes, Melanie, it says moment in the sun. I mean, I just I every time I hear him talking, I'm like, stop talking to the press. You're just hurting, you're not allowing Kohberger to get his fair day in court. I mean, I think there's definitely tainting of the jury pool that's happening right now, like I said in my video. And this week, right, it has come to light that Ann Taylor, his current public defender, has a conflict of interest issue, right? So it has come to light that she represented one of the victim's moms in some drug charges. Now, that's not unusual at all because they live in a small town and I'm guessing the public defender's office isn't that big. Now, what has happened is that she has recused herself and they put another public defender on her case because, at the end of the day, it's I want to say minor, but I don't know if it's minor, but it's drug charges, right? It's certainly not, first degree murder. What we have to remember is Ann Taylor is the chief public defender of that department, which means she probably has death penalty expertise, right? And that's what has to happen here, right? Is that Kohberger needs a public defender that has death penalty experience. Now, what's interesting is the mom has stated that she will not waive conflict. So when there's a conflict, right, between clients and different parties in a lawsuit, both parties have to waive conflict, right? So in this case, Bryan Kohberger would have to waive conflict and say, okay, that's fine. You can represent me, even though you represented one of the victim's moms. And her former client also has to waive conflict. And the news is reporting that she's refusing to waive conflict, which I think would seem to imply that maybe Bryan Kohberger is going to get another public defender, which maybe is fine. I mean, it's not, he's early enough in his trial that changing lawyers now is probably not going to be an issue. Let me know in the comments if you guys have heard anything else. I mean, there are a lot of different conspiracy theories out there. I think in doing my research, I heard about this Army ex-soldier who was gunned down by SWAT just like I think at the beginning of December, and there seems to be maybe some connection between him and Kohberger. So I don't know. I'm interested in seeing what happens at trial. We'll just have to wait until it comes, until it happens in June. I would love to hear from you guys more. Please consider joining my membership or my Patreon. It will have a access to my Discord server where I will be very active. I'm happy to answer any questions or just chat or give kind of, not legal advice, but kind of general life advice. Thank you so much for joining in. I mean, before we go, if you guys have any other questions or if you want me to cover anything else, I will be making I have a Rick and Morty video that's coming out that's being edited right now on the fact that Justin Rowland has been fired from the show because of 2 felony charges in connection with domestic violence. As you guys all know, like, I'm a big protector of women's rights and children's rights. And I'm so happy to be able to be here and create this community with all of you guys. So I'm going to try to do these lives every Sunday, probably midday. I'm going to try to like hardwire my computer in. Hopefully that'll, I'll fix the camera issue. But thank you all so much for joining me. I know it's really late. I so appreciate all of you. I'd love to hear if you guys, before you guys go, like kind of where you're coming in from. I mean, are you guys on the West Coast? Are you guys maybe international? I'd love to hear kind of where you guys are. I'm so curious if you guys are maybe, what your time zones are. Thank you so much, Leah. This stream you guys have been so patient. I'm so grateful to you because the first stream is like everybody says, always kind of hard. Thank you so much, Jake, for joining. I really appreciate you guys. Riverside. Oh, I kind of grew up around there. That's amazing. Thank you so much, you guys. Taipei, I was born in Taiwan. I immigrated here when I was 7. So I'm so happy to hear from you. Colorado. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining in. I mean, this has just been so fun. I am a coach. I have had training as a performance coach. There was a brief period in time before. Okay, so when COVID hit, and I'll cover this in kind of my career video, right? So when COVID hit, I was laid off from BuzzFeed. I mean, technically I wasn't laid off. I mean, I was given the chance to stay. I didn't want to stay, so I just left. And I am like very driven. I'm always like type A, go, go, go. And I just wanted to do something else. So I decided to go get trained as a coach. And I am a firm believer on, finding your North Star and having, what does it mean to be satisfied? And this is why I always say, we're all born perfect and we just forgot. My other favorite, motto is we're one thought away from joy. And I learned that from Michael Neal, who is an amazing, amazing coach. If you guys have not read his Inside Out Revolution, make sure to go read that book. That kind of really changed my life. So I was a coach for a while. I coached a lot of women attorneys, women executives, working moms, which, at the time of COVID was really, really hard. I did that for about 6 months. So when you guys hear me talk, I'm always going to be sort of in that mindset of like, how can I help you guys feel better, less alone? I'm always trying to, educate and give legal analysis, but my goal, my biggest goal is how do we create a community where you guys all feel supported and seen? Because I think that's so important to humans, right? Is to feel seen and heard. And that's something that's really important to me. I love this so much. So thank you guys for joining in. I love hearing where all of you guys are from. I am from Earth. That's very cute. Well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to sign off because it's almost 10 o'clock. Thank you so much. I feel like this was a train wreck of a first live stream, but you know what? I told myself I just have to do it, right? There has to be a first live stream somewhere. So thank you so much, you guys, for being so patient. I am so grateful. And there I am, frozen again. So I think that's my cue to go. Thank you so much, you guys. I love you guys. I will see you guys soon. Okay, bye.